Right now, Bitcoin is around 42,000, a little bit lower, right? Does that mean Jim Cramer was wrong again? Inverse Cramer is always right. Jim Cramer, when it comes to Bitcoin, is always wrong. Just recently, when Bitcoin was below 40,000, he's like, unlikely that Bitcoin finds its footing. Well, of course, it marks the bottom, and since then, we've been going upwards. I think he tweeted that when Bitcoin was around 39,000, maybe 40,000, 40, 39-ish. We did fall down a little bit to 38.3, and then boom, then we started coming back up. So Inverse Cramer seems to be always correct. Whenever Jim turned really, really bearish on Bitcoin, that's when you know you need to be greedy and start buying. Is it possible for Bitcoin to ever reach $10 million? Well, let's hear it from the biggest bear there is, Peter Schiff. He tweeted this yesterday. It sounded almost like capitulation, like he was giving up on being a bear. No matter how low the price of Bitcoin falls, the proponents will always be able to claim and outperform gold. Because it's true. Because it's true. For example, even if Bitcoin falls to 100 in 2031 and gold rises to 10,000, they will claim that Bitcoin is up 100x in the last 20 years while gold is up 5x. Hey, that's true too. But there's zero chance that Bitcoin's going to fall to 100 by 2031 and gold to 10,000 by 2031. Well, maybe gold could go to 10,000 by 2031. That's reasonable. But still, even if that happened, it's still true because Bitcoin started at like how many decimal points, right? And gold has been around for thousands of years, but within the last 20 years, Bitcoin will still be outperforming gold. See, but that's the truth, But someone, of course, was kind of trolling. What if Bitcoin goes to 10 million by 2031? Well, then his final answer is the US dollar goes the way of German paper mark, then I suppose that's possible. He didn't say no. No, he actually came up with a way for Bitcoin to go to $10 million. That's actually pretty bullish, if you ask me. Peter Schiff has never been this bullish. But it sounds like he's capitulating. It sounds like he's giving up on trying to attack Bitcoin. His son is a big Bitcoin bull too, and he argues with him all the time about Bitcoin versus gold. I mean, it's fine to be holding gold if you want to preserve your wealth. You don't want a lot of volatility. You want to just store it. Gold, in my opinion, is like the stable coin of the real world, I guess, the non-crypto world. If you want to preserve your wealth, say equities are going down and you wanted to have a safe haven, you put it into gold because it just doesn't move. It's designed not to move, right? It's kind of like stable coins. If you want to take profits, you want to sell out of crypto, what do? You put it into stable coins. That's how I see gold. It's a stable coin for equities or for the real world. But if you want life-changing wealth, you want ridiculous amount of gains, well, that's Bitcoin and crypto. That's not gold. That's fact. That's fact. Anyways, can Bitcoin reach 10 million? Well, yeah, if the dollar keeps on inflating and gets to nothing, then inflation is going to be rampant and we will see all assets go up to the moon, including Bitcoin. We have 394 million that was sold. But one thing that looks pretty promising is that the outflows are starting to diminish. Yesterday it was over 400 million. The day before was over 600 million. Even though 394 million is still a very large amount to be coming out of Grayscale, it is diminishing. And pretty soon it'll be at zero. The other boys, though, however, are still accumulating by a lot. So it's looking good. And here's the thing, guys. Think about this. When you have one entity that's selling $400 million worth of Bitcoin per day, and Bitcoin is still holding at 40,000, that kind of shows you how strong Bitcoin is right now. Think about it. Every day, it's almost guaranteed you have one entity that's selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. We're talking about Grayscale. Yet, Bitcoin is holding steady at 40,000. That shows you the true strength of Bitcoin right now. The bulls, even though they let go a little bit, they're not letting go that much more. They said enough is enough. We're going to hold our ground here. That's pretty amazing. And wait until this becomes zero. And then the inflows every day becomes 400 million, 500 million, 600 million, $1 billion into these funds, well, then we're going to see the price start going up in a big way. So here's one example of Bitcoin moving on track. And this is actually really uncanny, but if you look at it, 80 days till the halving event. Back in 2016, Bitcoin was still 62% down from its high. In 2020, 80 days from the halving event, Bitcoin was 52% down from its previous high. And right now, we're 80 days away from the halving event, and we're 42% down from our previous high. So do you see the pattern there? Every single cycle, right? We've been recovering faster, or you could argue we haven't dumped as much as before, right? But again, we're moving according to plan. We're moving exactly the same way as before. 80 days prior to the halving event, we're much closer to the previous high than the bottom, right? We've been recovering. It has always happened. And then what always happens after a halving event? You know, that parabolic rise up. And that is coming up too. That's not going to change. It's just a question of if it happens right away or we have to wait a few months. That's the thing. In 2020, we had to wait about 4 months after a halving event before Bitcoin really took off. So this time around, but in 2017, that's not the case. In 2017, things just kind of took off immediately, or 2016, I should say. So we'll have to see after this time, after April, or we're going to have to wait until August or September to see that parabolic rise, or do we just see it starting in, you know, May, June, July? We could, because it correlates with the timing of the Fed rate cuts, but we'll see. Anyways, my point is this. Yeah, Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin doesn't care about macro conditions, or it doesn't care about FUD. It doesn't care about whale manipulation. Bitcoin is just pure. It's code. And it's beautifully designed so that it accommodates everything. And it's just going to keep on moving forward, and that's not going to change. So when in doubt, zoom out, right? Because right now, even though it seems like we had a catastrophic drop, not really. When you zoom out, you realize, well, yeah, obviously we had much bigger drops and we have come up very, very fast. But when you zoom out, it barely registers. And it's a stopping point, okay? It's a consolidation point before we go much, much higher. Much, much higher. It happened in 2020. In fact, you know what? Right before the halving event in 2020, we had the worst catastrophic drop probably right before a halving event. We had that COVID drop, right? That was not Bitcoin related. That was entire world related. That was when Bitcoin fell from 11,000 all the way down below 4,000. That was a catastrophic drop. And after that drop, I remember at that time, because I was streaming, people thought that Bitcoin was dead, that Bitcoin was going to go down to $1,000. Did that happen? No. Look at the V-shaped bounce that we had back in 2020. And then we continued forward, and then we started going up. Now, the thing about 2020 is after the halving event, it took a while for Bitcoin to go up parabolically, right? It didn't happen until November, and the halving event in 2020, I believe, was in May. So it did take a few months before we saw that parabolic rise. But nevertheless, it happened when everyone thought that it was impossible because Bitcoin fell down to below $4,000, $3,800 to be exact. But it still happened. This time around, I don't think we had to wait that long because we have so many good catalysts that are happening and already happened. So I think it's going to be according to clockwork.